Hi, my name is Smriti. I am a part of the Chaos Engineering module at Harness. In this video, you will learn what Pod API Modify Body Chaos fault is, its use cases, how you can configure and run it, its consequences on the target application, and how you can avoid and recover from such failures. Pod API Modify Body is a Kubernetes pod level experiment that modifies the request and response body of an API by replacing it with user defined values. How does Pod API Modify Body translate to the real world applications? It helps improve the resilience of your application by validating how well your application behaves or handles malformed data in the request or response body. It also helps understand the application's resilience to API payload errors. It tests how the application behaves when malicious payloads are present and whether data integrity prevails. It also helps ensure that the load balancers and the API gateways correctly handle altered payloads and so on. Before executing this chaos experiment, you have to ensure that the prerequisites are fulfilled. Ensure that you have a Kubernetes version greater than 1.17 and ensure that the Kubernetes pods are healthy before injecting chaos and after the chaos duration is complete, that is after chaos injection. Let us configure the experiment. Go to Chaos Experiments, click New Experiment, specify a name, Chaos Infrastructure type, an environment, click Next and select an infrastructure that you have created earlier. Click Apply and click Next. To configure the target application, specify the app kind as deployment and the namespace where your application resides and the name of the application on which chaos will be injected. In the tune fault modal, specify the chaos duration and the response body, which is the value that is replaced with the original value, the target service port, the proxy port, the network interface and the path filter. Go to the probes modal, select or add a new probe, click new probe and create a command probe, provide a name, click configure details, provide a command, select the data comparison type, the comparison criteria and the value, click configure properties, specify the timeout, interval, attempt and verbosity, click setup probe. You can find this probe in the list of probes. Select the probe, click add to fault, select the mode as edge and apply changes. Apply all these changes to the experiment and click save. Click run to execute the experiment. To validate the chaos injection, we will use the browser wherein we'll specify the external IP along with the status path filter. You will see that chaos is not yet in action, hence the status says up, which is the original value. You can see that chaos is in action because the helper pod status says running. If we refresh the page, it now shows the status as chaos in action. This is the value that we provided in the response body of the tunables section. For more information on the use cases and the tunables, refer to the official documentation whose link is provided in the description box below. Next step would be to understand how to avoid such failures and how you can recover from such failures. Let us first discuss how you can avoid such failures. Ensure that you define standard fallback mechanisms so that you can handle invalid data. Set up circuit breakers to isolate faults and prevent cascading failures. Reject or flag the payloads that fail certain integrity checks. Validate the nested fields and data structures before processing these payloads. Implement certain features like read-only modes, caching or default responses in your application. Use rate limiting mechanisms to control the API usage and employ MTLS for end-to-end security in microservices architecture. How can you recover from such failures? Sanitize the API gateways and validate the payloads before they reach the backend, and so on. Thank you.